Good morning, everyone. This is our post-launch news conference for the SpaceX COTS demonstration flight. And here to discuss this morning's launch and activities on orbit right now are Bill Gerstenmaier, the Associate Administrator for NASA's Human Exploration and Operations Mission Directorate, Alan Lindenmoyer, Manager of NASA's Commercial Crew and Cargo Program, Gwynne Shotwell, the President of SpaceX, and joining us from California, Elon Musk, the Chief Executive Officer and Chief Designer of SpaceX. And we'll begin first with Bill Gerstenmaier. Bill?
Thank you, George. I just want to really congratulate the SpaceX team for just an absolutely amazing countdown, launch, and orbit insertion today. You know, I've had the pleasure of working down here at the Cape with a lot of fantastic teams that have put together a lot of really quality rockets and launched a lot of amazing things. And I tell you, the SpaceX team, there is none better than this team that has really done a phenomenal job today and really have done an amazing activity today. And they did a great job recovering from the shutdown a couple days ago. And they just stayed focused on task and just kept moving forward and just did a great job today with the launch. There's still a lot of work in front of them. There's still a lot of exciting activities coming up. The solar array activity was great today. The first burn was done successfully. Things are moving in the right direction, but there's still lots of activities that will occur over the next days that will really stretch the SpaceX team and also stretch the NASA team a little bit as we work together to get finally to space station and deliver some demonstration cargo to ISS. So again, congratulations to the SpaceX team, and what just a great launch today.
Thanks, Bill. And now to Alan Lindenmoyer, the NASA COTS Program Manager. Alan.
Thank you, George. Another super great day for SpaceX and NASA, and the beginning of another historic mission for commercial spaceflight. Congratulations to SpaceX on demonstrating such skill in turning the vehicle around and leading to such a spectacular launch this morning. It truly was really beautiful. So let me just say thanks to all of our partners, the Air Force, the FAA, of course the ISS team who's getting ready for their new visiting vehicle, and especially my program team who's been with the program since the beginning, and everybody working so hard for the beginning of this mission. There's still 1,000 things that have to go right. But we are certainly looking forward to the rest of this amazing mission, and thank you for making us such a proud partner.
Thank you, Alan. And now to Gwynne Shotwell, the SpaceX President. Gwynne.
Sorry to be redundant, but I did want to thank the folks at SpaceX for all the hard work that they've put into this flight. Wanted to thank our customers, especially NASA at this point, for being a great partner. Thanks our other mission partners, the Air Force and the FAA. And I said a few days ago that we really wanted to get a little bit further on this flight than we did on the last one, and we've done that, which is great. We did deploy the solar arrays. We've got teeters pointing, Operation Anomaly. We do have a lot of work left to do upcoming here in the next 73 hours or so. And we'll keep everybody informed as to the progress.
Thank you, Gwynne. And we'll go out now to Hawthorne, California, to the Mission Control Center for SpaceX, and Elon Musk, the CEO and Chief Designer of SpaceX. Elon. Elon.
Well, thank you. It's, I mean, I'd like to start off by saying what a tremendous honor it's been to work with NASA and to just acknowledge the fact that we could not have started SpaceX, nor could we have reached this point without the help of NASA. So I'd like to thank NASA as an organization, and in particular Alan's team and everyone working on the commercial space program. But it's really been an honor to work with such great people. And then, of course, I'd like to express appreciation, as Gwynne did, for the hard work of the people at SpaceX, people are really giving it their all. And so it's great when you've given every ounce that you have to see it come to fruition in this way. And I'd like to thank the Air Force and the FAA and all of our partners. It's really been great to have three launches of Falcon 9 in a row that are successful. Is just tremendous. I think it shows that the rocket is a good, solid rocket. And to have two flights of Dragon that are successful, we obviously still have to go through a number of steps to dock and effectively berth with the space station. But everything is looking really good. And I think I would really count today as a success no matter what happens the rest of the mission.
Thank you, Elon. And we're ready to take questions now. So we'll begin here at KSC and then take any questions on the phone. We'll start here in the front. Please give your name and affiliation when you get the mic. And we'll start here with Marcia.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press for Mr. Musk. We've been reading your Twitter updates this morning, but I'd like to know how you were feeling and what you were thinking when the engines lighted, the rocket rose from the pad, and the spacecraft ended up in orbit.
Every bit of adrenaline in my body released at that point. It's obviously an extremely intense moment. The main thing I was wondering was, would we have a valve-related issue on launch, and would the first stage perform nominally because there was perhaps some question mark generated by the prior launch abort, but it worked perfectly. So I was really glad to see that. And then the second stage worked really well. Dragon separation, solar array deployment. We've never actually had solar arrays deploy in space before, so this is the first time we've done solar arrays, and anything could have gone wrong, and everything went right, fortunately. So I feel very lucky.
James Dean with Florida Today for Mr. Musk. Just following up on that question, it sounded like out there in Hawthorne, watching the video, that people were watching a football game or something. The way we heard the cheers after those events, could you just describe for us a little more who was there, what was going on, what was the mood amongst the entire team?
Sure. Well, we had most of the company gathered around mission control, so and you're really seeing the fruit of. They're seeing the fruit of their labors, and wondering whether it's going to work, and that there's so much hope riding on that rocket. So when it worked, and then Dragon worked, the solar arrays deployed, people saw their handiwork in space and operating as it should. I mean, it was a tremendous elation. I mean, it's like, I guess, for us, it's like winning the Super Bowl.
Hi, Eben Brown from Fox News Radio. Mr. Musk, if I can get you to put on your entrepreneur's hat for just a second and talk about the economic impact of what you've done today, not necessarily in terms of NASA's pocketbook, but in terms of really issuing a different part of the private industry in this country and perhaps the world.
Sure. Well, I think we're really at the dawn of a new era of space exploration, and one where there's a much bigger role for commercial space companies. Still, of course, a very important role for government activities, but where there's an increasingly significant role for commercial. I think there's perhaps some parallels to the internet in the mid-90s, where the internet was created as a government endeavor, but then the introduction of commercial companies really accelerated the growth of the internet and made it accessible to the mainstream. And I think we're actually at that stage, and the success of this mission, even what we've seen thus far, I think bodes well for that new phase of space exploration.
Ken?
Hi, Ken Kramer for Spaceflight Magazine for Mr. Musk. I'd like to know, do you have a message today for those in Congress who seem to want to single out the commercial crew program for cuts and delay the introduction of manned spacecraft again to the United States, specifically the Dragon?
Well, I hope that the success of this mission thus far, at least, and hopefully it's 100% successful, will dispel some of the doubts that people have. I do think that in some cases people had legitimate concerns because there's no precedent for what we're doing here. They would ask, well, when has a private company been successful in this regard? And obviously the answer is, well, that hasn't happened yet. But now it has. We've had 3 successes of Falcon 9, 2 successful flights of Dragon, and hopefully we'll have a successful berthing with the space station. So I think this should dispel the doubts of anyone if they are reasonable.
John Coles with CNN. This is for Mr. Musk. Is there any human remains on board on SpaceX and along with Scotty from Star Trek, along 300 others?
There are no human remains that I'm aware of on Dragon right now.
Jay Barbary with NBC. Ms. Shotwell, excuse me, I was off playing television, didn't get your opening statement. Has the hatches open? Do you have the Star Trekkers out? That was the next big thing.
That wasn't scheduled to occur yet. It looks like we're attempting to do that early. I've got my email up. I'll report as soon as it happens.
Now or?
It was to occur at 6:15 local, but they are initiating early.
So I didn't miss it.
You didn't miss it yet.
Okay, thank you.
Depends on how many questions we have.
Back here.
It's Chris Haber with Terra Sancta Press for Mr. Musk. I was just wondering if you care to give any insight to possible technology or research interchange between SpaceX and Tesla.
Sure. Well, there's in the case of Tesla, I think Tesla benefits from SpaceX's ability to design really advanced structures, very lightweight structures with advanced materials. For example, the Tesla Model S is an all-aluminum body and chassis. In fact, it's the only all-aluminum car made in North America. And then on the SpaceX side, SpaceX benefits from the most advanced battery pack in the world that Tesla has. So SpaceX is able to leverage the Tesla technology there. And then occasionally we use test facilities between the companies. Also, the automotive industry is very good at manufacturing and creating very reliable vehicles. And if you think about it, a car is a human-rated vehicle that has to last for 15 years and 200,000 miles. And at the end of that, if you're in a crash, the airbags have to deploy and work perfectly. And yet a car costs only a few tens of thousands. So that's pretty incredible what the auto industry has done from a manufacturing standpoint. So being able to leverage some of that experience to the rocket business is actually very helpful.
Irene?
Irene Klotz with Reuters. I wanted to ask you a different question, Elon, but I'm going to have to ask you to clarify about the Celestis payload on the Falcon second stage. If you could just talk a little bit about adding that as a customer.
I hate to say it. I actually, if they were on board, I didn't actually know that. I was focused on other things.
Okay, next question.
Thanks, Elon. The other question I wanted to ask you about is NASA's spending about $3 billion a year now on the SLS Orion, as you know, and just was wondering if you think that at some point companies such as SpaceX can do something about those very high costs for a system that goes beyond low Earth orbit.
Well, I think right now our focus is very much on serving the International Space Station with cargo and then transitioning to crew, and then advancing the state of our rocket technology. As you've heard me mention before, I think the critical breakthrough in rocket technology is to create a full and rapidly reusable rocket. So in order to make the cost of space transport start to approximate that of the fuel and oxygen, which only constitutes about 0.3% of the cost of the vehicle. So that's our focus right now, and you know, in the future, who knows? But that's what we're working on right now.
Hello, Kevin Quinn with KTRK TV from Houston. Maybe the question should be pointed to Ms. Shotwell about the Celestis payload. Can you confirm that, in fact, this was on board Falcon, or can anyone else on this panel?
Yeah, we had a Celestis canister on the second stage, not on Dragon, as was originally asked.
Tell us the thought process about having them as a customer.
They've actually been a customer of ours since, I think, 2005 or 2006. They flew on Flight 2 and 3 of Falcon 1, and now they're flying on Flight 3 of Falcon 9.
Right here.
Jason Parr with Wired. You've mentioned that there's still many, many challenges to come, Mr. Musk, in this mission. Can you perhaps highlight where the next big worry for you is, next big challenge, and maybe explain some of the technical challenges and details behind that next big hurdle?
Well, the next thing is for us to open the guidance navigation control door. There's kind of a instrument bay, sort of like a tiny version of you know, open the pod bay doors on in 2001 Space Odyssey. We have a tiny pod bay door, and inside are the navigation sensors, which will be used to lock onto the space station and plot an approach vector, a series of approach vectors. So we need to see, does that door open properly? Does it lock into position? That also exposes the grapple fixture that the station will use to grab Dragon, and so that should be happening relatively soon. And then we're going to see how well those sensors are performing. Then in a few days we will do a flyby of the space station and attempt to do the lock-on and with the sensors and do precision maneuvers relative to the space station. And then the day after that is when we will attempt to actually connect to the space station.
Bill? Bill Horowitz, CBS News for Gerst. Could you give us a little sense of what has to happen after this flight before SpaceX would be cleared to start routine cargo deliveries? In other words, I guess what I'm wondering is, could they have some failures, and what would it require for another test flight, I guess is what I'm wondering. What do you have to get done now to clear the way for a routine delivery?
Again, I think the way we've talked about that is we'll take a look at how the mission goes, and then we'll analyze what occurs, and if we think the failure is small enough, it can be easily corrected, and then we could go right into commercial resupply services, and we wouldn't need to do another demonstration flight. If it's something that we collectively think requires a lot of extra work and would actually benefit from another test flight, then we would go propose a test flight. So we tried to talk about it, Alan and I, and the teams looked at it a little bit ahead of time. Could we actually define crisp criteria, yes or no, one way or the other, and we really couldn't. So we'll just kind of see how the mission goes, see how it plays out, and then make a decision based on what we get. But again, I think you know, we're ready to go to commercial resupply as services as soon as we can get there in the right amount of time, and we'll be kind of leaning that way as we go forward.
I'm an HK also for Mr. Gerstenmaier. If you can, from where you are, the benefit of perspective that you have, given that you've been here for decades with the agency, the significance of this moment and moving forward, the weight of the responsibility that the commercial sector is taking on.
You know, again, I think you know, my my primary thoughts today were how impressed I was with this team and what they accomplished today. The professionalism that they brought into this activity is the same professionalism that we've exhibited over the past many years. And to see this team just as focused, just as hard working, just as dedicated as the teams that have done this before is real a tribute to our business. And then culminating in a rocket launch, there's something special about a rocket launch. I mean, I think everybody smiles, everybody high-fives each other, everybody hugs each other, and that's universal. And I think the reason that occurs is because it took so much work ahead of time. You know, it took years of preparation from when the engine test began with these guys way back in McGregor and working through all these activities into manufacturing and all the problems that come about that are kind of routine things. Then in one small instant, within milliseconds, you see all those past years worth of labor, work, and effort result in this phenomenal launch. And when that occurs, I think the teams get really excited, and it's good seeing this next version come online. I think it's also good because this frees us up to really focus on beyond low Earth orbit. You know, we've got the SLS and MPCV. We're looking for those bigger targets to push beyond, and this lets NASA focus on those little bit harder destinations, those little things that are a little more demanding from an overall standpoint, and move in that direction. This is also absolutely critical to space station. This cargo resupply is absolutely needed for station to reach its research potential and move forward. So I'm very proud for what the team has done, and I'm very glad that they had the wonderful start to this mission. But again, the caution for all of us is there's still a lot to go.
We're going to take a question on the phone right now. Brendan McGarry from Bloomberg News. Brendan, are you there?
I am. Thanks for taking a call from the line. Congratulations, everyone. Seems pretty exciting. Question is related to sort of, I guess, what happens next, especially with docking. In the event of a failure or some kind of no-go on that particular portion of the mission, what happens? Would the capsule simply be steered to a re-entry, and would that in and of itself necessitate another demonstration flight?
I'll take this initially, if you don't mind. This particular Dragon, well, actually, and going forward, we have the ability to back away, depending on what the issue is from the space station. It's called a retreat, or actually abort and re-rendezvous and try again. On missions going forward, because we don't have to do that C2 portion, if you recall from 2 days ago, we'll have 2 abort capability.
All right, right here.
Thank you very much. Scott Powers from the Orlando Sentinel. Question for Bill. Follow up on the commercial resupply statement you made a moment ago. How much of your near future, medium future resupply is already committed through manifests and contracts? How much of that can be turned over, and how quickly to either SpaceX or other commercial companies?
We've already initiated the contract for 12 flights with SpaceX going forward under commercial resupply services, and those are already in place. We effectively have booked from both Orbital and from SpaceX 20 metric tons each of cargo resupply to ISS.
How much do you have left, I guess, is my question, that might be committed to the Russians or elsewhere right now?
We've committed everything. We are no longer purchasing any cargo resupply from the Russians. We are solely dependent upon the commercial providers, with a little bit coming from our automated transfer vehicle from the Europeans and the Japanese HTV vehicle. But those are small amounts of unique payloads that are kind of geared to those unique spacecraft. For example, HTV can carry large racks that can be transferred through the hatch that we can't in those other areas. But all the commercial cargo that we put it on the commercial side to be on these new companies.
James Tutton with the Valencia Voice. I have a question for Mr. Musk or anyone that may know. With thousands of satellites already in orbit, more getting launched every year by SpaceX, governments, and other companies, are there any plans to deal with space debris or down satellites, disposal of them, just in the future as space debris? Because I know it's been an issue for the ISS, possibly getting hit by space debris, and we're kind of adding to that in a way. So are there any plans for dealing with that?
I don't know of any specific plans. I don't know of any specific plans to actually deorbit other satellites or debris or other pieces. we do have requirements on what second stages can do and other things to try to get those re-entered so they don't become a portion of the debris hazard. We also have a requirement for spacecraft to essentially inert the propellant system so they don't fragment into space and create more debris. But we don't really have on the books yet any kind of planned return of failed spacecraft or debris from space.
There is quite a bit of interest on the commercial side to clear the geo belt, either to grapple satellites and push them out of the way or actually try to refuel them.
So it's like a janitor satellite? Or?
I suppose if you push it out of the way, it's a little bit like a janitor satellite. If you're refueling it, it's the rejuvenation satellite.
Hi, Clara Moskowitz with Space.com. A question for Mr. Musk. Can you talk about how SpaceX is doing on its plan to outfit Dragon for crew, and what are some of the big challenges coming up for you guys in that pursuit?
Sure. The work on upgrading Dragon for crew is going quite well, and I think we're sorting out, in particular, the launch escape system. The launch escape thruster is called Super Draco, and we've had a number of successful test firings of that thruster, and we'll be integrating that into a full propulsion module hopefully later this year. So the launch escape system, which is the critical path item for carrying crew, is progressing really well, and I'm very excited about that because I think it's going to represent a big advancement in launch escape technology for spacecraft. And then we've also done a lot of work with NASA on the ergonomics and figuring out how to fit up to 7 astronauts in the Dragon spacecraft, and what the instrumentation should look like and the control systems, and I think that's going really well as well.
Yeah, we have a question over here. Hold your hand up, please.
Hi, I'm Simone Sayed for Blackstar and Discovery Communications. Now, as we've seen on Twitter tonight, SpaceX became a trending feature, which was fantastic. But why is SpaceX significant for all of humanity? Why should every person on the planet care about what you're doing here?
Sure, I could answer that, I suppose. So I think, as I was mentioning earlier, what this mission really does is I think it heralds the dawn of a new era of space exploration, one where there's a significant commercial space element or sort of private space element. And just like the advent of the internet, in the mid-90s when commercial companies entered the internet, which was originally a government endeavor, and that dramatically accelerated the pace of advancement in the internet and made it accessible to the mass market, I think we're at a similar inflection point for space. So I think this is, I hope and I believe this mission will be historic in marking that turning point towards a rapid advancement in space transportation technology.
Okay, we'll take one last question here, and that'll wrap it up right here.
Chang from New York Times. It's a question for Mr. Gerstenmaier. I understand that commercial cargo is critical for a station, but it's not urgent because you had gotten a lot of supplies up with STS-135. I was just wondering, where would the station be at right now if you hadn't had 135?
Again, I think what 135 did was it added about a year of margin to allow essentially the commercial cargo providers to get established in delivering routine cargo to ISS. So it gave us about a year's worth of margin. We have lots of scientific investigations going on right now. We're working pretty heavily with SpaceX on a couple of the flights in the future where a bunch of our payloads are looking at getting added to SpaceX. There's also the Dragon trunk where we can carry some external cargo. That's another feature we're going to add on a later commercial resupply services flight. We're working those activities right now with SpaceX. So again, like I described earlier in our business, we're really working things that are 3 or 4 flights down the road to get prepared for those activities. So we're really gearing up for a large amount of payload activity to be carried on SpaceX, and we're working that right now. So it's really critical. But 135 gave us about a year of margin to essentially let the new commercial providers, let SpaceX and Orbital get established in delivering cargo to us.
All right, that's going to conclude our briefing and our coverage for the SpaceX COTS launch demonstration flight today. Thank you very much.